12 songs. Some of the most played, most quoted, most studied records in hip-hop history. You probably know every word. But what happened before those records ever dropped? The real events, the real violence, the real betrayals that got inside the music, that story is something else entirely. These are the moments that actually shaped what you're hearing. The crimes, the confrontations, the trauma, the choices. All of it alive in the music, if you know where to look. Some of these connections you've heard pieces of. Others have been buried under myth for years. But every single name on this list ties a real event to a song you already love. If you're ready to go beneath the surface, we're starting at 12. Number 12, Warren G and Nate Dogg, Regulate, 1994.
I jumped out the rock and said, what's up? Some brothers put some, so I said,
Regulate might be the smoothest, most laid-back record to ever come out of the West Coast. Late night, Long Beach, the kind of song that sounds like a movie.
To bigger, better things than some horny tricks. I see my homie and some suckers all in his mix.
And the thing is, for Warren G, it was. Warren Griffin III grew up on 21st Street and Lewis Street in Long Beach, California. Same streets as Snoop Dogg.
If you won't skirt, sit back and observe. I just left a gang of over there on.
He, Nate Dogg, and Snoop came up together in the same crew, running the same blocks, before any of them were artists. So when Warren sat down to build Regulate, he wasn't reaching for his imagination, he was reaching for his memory.
Clear black night, a clear white moon. Warren G was on the streets trying to consume.
In a Billboard interview, Warren confirmed the song is largely autobiographical, composited from real events he and Nate actually lived through in Long Beach. Here's where it gets layered though. The dice game robbery in the song, the specific moment where guns come out and things go sideways.
Now they got the freaks, and that's a known fact. Before I got jacked, I was on the...
That part happened to a friend of his, on his own block. And here's what nobody ever really says out loud. Warren's block, the street he's literally rolling down at the top of the record, was his own turf.
Hit the east side of the LBC on a mission trying to find Mr. Warren G.
Which means the men who ran up on people at that dice game may well have been from his own set. That ambiguity in the song, whether Nate just laid down friends or enemies, the record never resolves it.
16 in the and 1 in the hole. Nate Dogg is about to make somebody's turn.
Because that's what those streets actually look like up close. Your people and your problems can wear the same face. If you were in Long Beach in the early 90s, you already know what that meant.
I got a car full of girls and it's going real swell.
Number 11, Mobb Deep, Shook Ones Part 2, 1995. Shook Ones Part 2 is probably the most intimidating record this culture has ever produced. The kind of record that changes the energy in a room the moment it comes on. And it was made by a man who spent most of his life not at war with the streets, but at war with his own blood. Albert Johnson, Prodigy, was born with sickle cell anemia, a hereditary blood disorder that causes excruciating pain, organ damage, and hospital stays that started when he was a child. He told NPR, "My life before hip-hop was just pain. Sickle cell was my life." He was angry, all the time. Not because he was performing toughness, because his own body was failing him every single day. And when he and Havoc built Shook Ones Part 2 in 1995, Prodigy was 18 years old, but he said he felt 40. The Queensbridge houses in Queens, where Havoc grew up, were as real as it gets. Real violence, real losses, real funerals. And Tupac, in one of the wildest moves of the beef era, literally called out Prodigy's sickle cell on wax in Hit 'Em Up, tried to use the man's disease as a weapon. Prodigy kept moving. In 2008, Prodigy told the Village Voice, "I'm not scared to die. I feel like my life is going to be short anyway because of my sickle cell." He said it like he already knew. In June 2017, he was hospitalized for sickle cell complications. He was 42 years old. He never came out. The anger in that record was never a pose. It was the sound of someone who had been fighting for his life before he ever picked up a mic and chose to turn that fight into armor. You know what that's like. Number 10, Ice Cube, No Vaseline, 1991.
I saw it coming, that's why I went solo.
By 1989, Ice Cube had written most of the songs that introduced hip-hop to Compton: Straight Outta Compton, Gangsta Gangsta, Dope Man. The record that put N.W.A. on the map was built almost entirely on his pen. And when the royalties came in, he got almost nothing. Jerry Heller, N.W.A.'s manager, had negotiated contracts that left Cube earning around $32,000 for a full year of work, while the label was profiting in the millions. Because of how the publishing was structured, he wasn't even receiving proper credit for everything he'd written. When he finally got into the paperwork and understood what was in there, he walked. No press conference, no drama, he just left. N.W.A. fired back. 100 Miles and Runnin', then Dre Day, A Direct Shot, and Cube answered with No Vaseline in 1991. Here's what I think about when I hear that record. It wasn't just a diss track, it was documentation. Cube broke down the business on wax, named who had the money, named who was writing the checks, named exactly how the exploitation worked. He didn't just clap back at rappers, he exposed the architecture of what was being done to them. That is a different kind of courage. Most people who get played in a bad contract never get a chance to name it publicly. Cube turned his into one of the most surgical takedowns hip-hop has ever heard. And if you've ever worked harder than anyone in the room and still took home the smallest piece of what you built, you know exactly how that record felt when it dropped. Number 9, Ghetto Boys, to Scarface, Mind Playing Tricks on Me, 1991. Brad Jordan grew up in Houston's South Park neighborhood, one of the most volatile areas of the city in the 1980s. And before he ever made a record as Scarface, the streets did a number on his mind.
She helped me out in this shit. But to me, she was just
As a teenager, Brad Jordan attempted suicide and was committed to a psychiatric ward. He was diagnosed with manic depression. He later said that his time in therapy during that hospital stay was what shaped the introspective style he'd carry into his music for the rest of his career.
It wasn't even close to Halloween. It was dark as fuck on the streets.
When the Ghetto Boys made Mind Playing Tricks on Me in 1991, Scarface wasn't performing a character. The paranoia in that song, the hallucinations, the guilt of what you've survived and what you've done, that was his interior life, documented. He gave language to the psychological damage that street life inflicts, at a time when nobody else in hip-hop was willing to have that conversation. And there's something else about the album that record came from. We Can't Be Stopped was recorded while the group was actively in crisis. During that same period, their member Bushwick Bill was shot in the eye in a confrontation, and Scarface and Willie D literally wheeled him out of the hospital to take the album cover photo. That's the picture on the sleeve. That's what they were living while they were making the music.
And my boys disappeared too. Then I felt just like a fiend.
Before mental health was a conversation in hip-hop, before anyone would admit publicly that the streets could break your mind as completely as your body, Scarface said it out loud.
I got a little boy to look after, and if I die, then my child will be a bastard.
And an entire generation of people who'd never had language for what the trauma was doing to them inside finally had a record for it. Number 8, Jay-Z, You Must Love Me, 1997.
Think about how the funds once came, then I ran across this memory and it stung the...
In 1982, a 12-year-old named Sean Carter shot his own older brother. That's not metaphor. That's the real event, buried deep in Jay-Z's catalog. And most people who recite his bars have no idea it happened.
Still I'm drowning in shame. Just remember one thing now, you're not.
Jay-Z grew up in the Marcy Projects in Brooklyn's Bedford-Stuyvesant. His father left when he was 11, and during the crack epidemic of the early 80s, his older brother Eric developed an addiction. When Eric stole a ring from Jay-Z to support his habit, Jay-Z, 12 years old, a child, got a gun from his mentor Jazzo and shot his brother in the shoulder.
And told you step outside, hoping you said no, but you hurt my pride.
Non-fatal. Eric never pressed charges. When Jay visited him in the hospital, it was Eric who apologized for the addiction, for what it had made him. Jay-Z encoded that moment into You Must Love Me from his 1997 album In My Lifetime, Volume 1, rapping about closing his young eyes and squeezing.
Go smooth. Just tell her what to do and everything will go cool.
He didn't talk about it publicly until a 2010 Guardian interview. Said he thought his life was over. Said he was terrified. Said, and this is the line that stays with me, I was a boy, a child.
What a sound. Open my eyes just in time to see you stumbling to the ground.
You've heard 100 Jay-Z verses about crack, about the come up, about building an empire. All of that is real.
Got intense, real intense as we got older. Never believed it would lead.
The Reasonable Doubt catalog, The Business Mind, The $1 Billion, all of it traces back to a child sitting in a hospital waiting room in Brooklyn in 1982, wondering if his brother was going to live. That's where the music came from.
The blame. You was newly separated, trying to escape your world, and through my thirst.
Number 7, Suge Knight, Death Row, The Chronic, 1992. Death Row Records didn't begin in a boardroom. It began with lead pipes and baseball bats. In April 1991, Suge Knight showed up at the Ruthless Records offices with a team of men and their chosen tools of persuasion. Dr. Dre, the D.O.C., and R&B singer Michelle wanted out of their contracts with Eazy-E's label. They weren't getting out through legal filings. Eazy-E later testified in court that he signed the release papers under duress, after Knight and his men made very clear what the alternative looked like. From that one coerced signing came Death Row Records, The Chronic in 1992. Triple Platinum. Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style in 1993, Quadruple Platinum. Two of the defining albums of that era, built on a foundation that Eazy-E's former manager, Jerry Heller, described with complete transparency. Knight showed up with pipes. They made the deal. And here's the part I always come back to. Heller told the story of Eazy-E calling him after the fact, saying he thought Knight was going to be a serious problem, saying he was thinking about handling it differently. And Heller, the businessman, talked him out of it, said they were making $10 million a month. Said, think about the business. Eazy-E chose the business. The business went on without him. The Death Row catalog that followed, The Chronic, Doggy Style, every Tupac record from that era. All of it traces back to one evening in 1991 when someone brought weapons to a contract dispute and left with what they came for, whether that was business or betrayal. I'll let you sit with that one. Number 6, Pimp C UGK, International Players Anthem, 2007. In August 2007, UGK released their self-titled album, and it debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, their peak. The moment that two artists from Port Arthur, Texas, who had been doing real work since 1992, finally got their full recognition. International Players Anthem, featuring Outkast, was everywhere. It felt like justice. 4 months later, Chad Pimp C. Butler was found unresponsive at the Mondrian Hotel in West Hollywood, December 4th, 2007. He was 33 years old. The coroner ruled it accidental, a combination of lean, promethazine, and codeine, and a pre-existing condition of sleep apnea. Sleep apnea blocks your airway during sleep. Your brain normally wakes you up to breathe. Add a heavy respiratory depressant to that mix. Codeine tells your central nervous system to slow everything down, and the body stops fighting for air. Pimp C made a song called Sippin' on Some Syrup with 3 6 Mafia.
I jumped the broom like a preemie out the womb. My partner yelling tooth.
He rapped about the culture, the substance, the lifestyle, built a musical identity around it. And the same thing he had documented in his music was in his system when he died. His manager described finding the body.
Like an infant on a double D.
Said Pimp C was laid face down like he was praying, with blood around him like he'd been shot, but there was no shooting. He had just stopped breathing in his sleep in a luxury hotel room 4 months after the greatest week of his career. If this album was in your rotation, you probably remember exactly where you were when you heard he was gone. Number 5, Nas, N.W.A. State of Mind, Illmatic, 1994.
Niggas be running through the block shooting. Time to start the revolution, catch a body.
Nas recorded Illmatic between the ages of 17 and 19. He didn't have a driver's license. He was still technically in the age range of high school, and he made one of the greatest albums ever recorded while watching his neighborhood collapse in real time around him.
Intelligence, life is defined. I think of crime when I'm in a New York state of mind.
The Queensbridge houses in Long Island City, Queens, the largest public housing complex in the United States, were a war zone in the late 80s and early 90s. Violence, drugs, grief at a level that the mainstream was not reporting.
I'm living where the nights is jet black. The fiends fight to get crack. I just met.
Nas grew up watching people he actually knew die young. And what you hear on N.W.A. State of Mind wasn't constructed in a studio. It was a photograph. The precision of that imagery, the specificity of those details, that comes from someone who saw it from his apartment window.
Keep some E&J sitting bent up in the stairway or either on the corner betting grants.
His best friend was murdered before the album even dropped. That loss is inside the record. You can feel the weight of it in every bar. Here's the thing I always think about with Illmatic. Nas's father was jazz musician Oludara, a working artist. Nas had music in his bloodline. He had a different kind of path available to him. But Queensbridge had its grip on him so tight that the only way he could process it was to document it.
Sewing up the blocks to sell rocks, winning gunfights with mega cops, but just a
to get it all down before it disappeared, or before it took him to. That documentation became the standard by which New York hip-hop is still measured more than 30 years later. Some of y'all have tried to explain that album to someone who wasn't there. You know how that goes.
That's where I learned to do my hustle, had to scuffle with freaks. I'm an addict for sneakers.
Number 4, Notorious B.I.G., Ready to Die, 1994.
Check it. I got more Mac than Craig and in the bed. Believe me, sweetie, I got a...
Christopher Wallace started selling drugs at 12 years old along Fulton Street in Brooklyn's Bedford-Stuyvesant. His mother, a Jamaican preschool teacher working 2 jobs, had no idea.
True fucking players. Jump in the Rover and come over, tell your friends.
She said publicly she learned about her son's street life through his music and through magazine interviews years later. I found out about my son and his little antics through the lyrics, Voletta Wallace told the New York Times. Here's the actual record. In 1989, he was arrested in Brooklyn for weapons possession, 5 years of probation. In 1990, he violated that probation. In 1991, he was arrested in North Carolina for dealing crack cocaine and spent 9 months in jail before making bail. He was in his late teens, and then he made Ready to Die. He named the album that at 22 years old. He built his debut record on the autobiographical arc of a man who came up in the crack game, who survived things his mother didn't know about, who chose rap as the only viable alternative to a cell or a grave. The detail in that album is so specific because he had actually lived it. Hustlers were my heroes, he once said. Everything happened on the strip I grew up in. Ready to Die dropped in 1994. The title didn't come from nowhere, and 3 years later, he was 24 years old, leaving an award show in Los Angeles, and that title became a fact. Number 3, 50 Cent Many Men, Wish Death, 2003.
So somewhere my heart
turn cold. Have mercy on many men.
Before 50 Cent was the biggest rapper in the world, he made a mixtape track called Ghetto Quran that paid tribute to the street legends of South Jamaica, Queens. Men who had made names for themselves in the drug trade,
Many men, many men.
including Kenneth Cream McGriff, a convicted drug kingpin who ran the Supreme Team organization. McGriff was navigating serious federal exposure at the time. He did not want his name in rap songs.
Many men. Wish death.
On May 24, 2000, 50 Cent was outside his grandmother's house in Jamaica, Queens. A gunman approached with a 9mm pistol, 9 shots. His hand, arm, hip, legs, chest, and face.
Wish death upon me. Blood in my eye, dog, and I can't see.
It happened so fast that you don't even get a chance to shoot back, 50 told MTV years later. It's a hit, man. You supposed to die in that situation. He survived multiple surgeries. Columbia Records dropped him and shelved his debut album.
To the sky no more. Have mercy on me. Have mercy on my.
And 50 Cent spent the next 2 years recording mixtapes out of a house in Westbury, Long Island, rebuilding from nothing, building a catalog that would eventually reach Eminem's ears and change his career completely.
Upon me, Lord, I don't cry no more. Don't look to the sky no more.
At the Murder Inc. trial years later, testimony suggested McGriff had ordered the hit. The man believed to be the shooter, Daryl Hummo Bomb, was himself killed 3 weeks after the incident.
Take my life away. I put a hole in a nigga for fucking with me.
All of it went into Many Men. Every bullet, every name, every detail. 50 Cent turned 9 near-fatal wounds into one of the most honest records of that era. And Get Rich or Die Tryin' sold 9 million copies.
Many men.
Number 2, Tupac, Dear Mama, 1995.
Running from the police, that's right. Mama catch me, put a whoop into my back.
In 1969, a woman named Afeni Shakur was arrested on 156 counts of conspiracy, accused of plotting to bomb New York City landmarks as a member of the Black Panther Party. She was pregnant when she was indicted.
Rocks, it feels good putting money in your mailbox. I love paying.
She chose to represent herself during the Panther 21 trial, one of the most politically charged trials in American history, and she was acquitted on all counts. 2 months later, she gave birth to Tupac Amaru Shakur.
Act crazy. I gotta thank the Lord that you made me.
Think about that. His first breath on this earth came 2 months after his mother beat the government in court while she was carrying him. That origin lived in Tupac forever. And when the crack epidemic arrived, it found Afeni too.
And even as a crack fiend, mama, you always was.
She struggled through years of addiction. The same mother who had taken on the United States government was fighting a different battle now. Tupac processed all of it, the love, the sacrifice, the hardship, the complexity, and put it into Dear Mama in 1995.
Hope you got the diamond necklace that I sent to you.
The song became one of the greatest tributes in the history of recorded music. It didn't flatten the truth. It didn't pretend the hard times away. It held the whole complicated reality, the love and the loss and the imperfect survival, and made it permanent.
Focus. When I was sick as a little kid, to keep me happy.
What I come back to is this. Tupac made Dear Mama while he was in the middle of his own storm, facing prison, at war with the industry, recovering from wounds, and he still reached back, still made space for her. That choice tells you everything about who he was before the mythology, before the icon, just a son who understood where he came from.
You all appreciate it.
Number 1, the notorious B.I.G., Ready to Die, Suicidal Thoughts, 1994.
When you was clocking minor figures, now they heard you blowing up like nitro when they.
The notorious B.I.G. named his debut album Ready to Die. He was 22 years old when he made it, and the album ends with a track called Suicidal Thoughts,
Trying to drop my decimals, damn. Niggas wanna stick me for my cream and it ain't a dream.
where his character, at the end of everything he's confessed, takes his own life. The last sound on the record is a gunshot. The album closes on that. 3 years later,
I'ma come for you. I'm not gunning, nigga. I bust my gun and hold on.
on the night of March 9, 1997, Christopher Wallace was in a black SUV, leaving the Soul Train Music Awards in Los Angeles. His vehicle stopped at a traffic light. A dark Chevrolet Impala pulled alongside.
They heard about the Rolex.
A gunman opened fire. Biggie was struck 4 times. He was taken to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center and pronounced dead. He was 24 years old. His murder has never been solved.
The rough, scandalous. The more weed smoke I puff, the more dangerous.
Here is what I keep returning to, what I think a lot of us who've listened to that album from start to finish keep returning to. He named his debut record, Ready to Die, at 22. The final track ends with a gunshot. He was gone at 24.
The door, and I feed them gunpowder so they can devour the criminals.
Christopher Wallace grew up selling crack on Fulton Street in Brooklyn, spent 9 months in a North Carolina jail as a teenager, fought his way out through his pen and his gift and his sheer force of presence. Made an album that told the truth about where he'd been.
His jacket, he had a gun, he should have packed it, cocked it, extra clips in my pocket.
And he still couldn't outrun what those streets had put into his life. Ready to Die was not just an album title, it was documentation, a man encoding something into the music that he might not have been able to say any other way.
Places out of state, they heard about the pounds it got down in Georgetown and
And whether you believe that was consciousness or coincidence, the record is there, the title is there, and so is March 9th, 1997.
the rough, scandalous. The more weed smoke I puff, the more dangerous.
Which one on this list hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. I already know the room is going to be split between him and Pac, and that debate is one that will never fully end.
Wanna stick the knife through your window?